There's a moment every man experiences, a moment where he realizes the words he thought were harmless were actually destroying everything he wanted with her. And if you've ever wondered why she suddenly pulled back, lost interest, or treated another guy with more desire than she ever gave you, it always traces back to the phrases you use without even knowing their power. Most men never learn this. They think attraction is built on looks, money, or some magical personality trait they were either born with or unlucky enough to live without. But the truth is far more uncomfortable and far more liberating. Women aren't drawn to the men with the best features or perfect lives. They're drawn to the men who speak in a way that hits her emotional wiring directly, effortlessly, instinctively. And when you understand how that wiring works, you stop chasing, stop begging, stop hoping, and start commanding a gravitational pull she feels in her body before she even understands why. You've been taught to be polite, agreeable, nice, and emotionally open on command. You were taught to communicate like a man trying to prove he's harmless. But women don't desire harmless. They don't crave soft-spoken neediness disguised as honesty. They crave polarity, mystery, presence, strength disguised in simple words that carry weight because they come from a man who knows who he is. And that is why these 5 forbidden phrases are so dangerous. Not because they're manipulative, not at all, but because they awaken instincts in her that most men accidentally shut off. These phrases bypass her logical mind and speak directly to her subconscious, the part of her that decides desire long before she can justify it. Right now, as you're listening to my voice, there's a part of you thinking, why has no one ever taught me this? Because they don't want you to know. A man who understands female psychology is powerful. A man who understands emotional influence is unignorable. And a man who speaks in a way that activates a woman's feminine core can walk into any room, any city, any culture, and instantly stand out without forcing anything. The first forbidden phrase will feel uncomfortable the moment you hear it because it goes against everything society told you a woman wants. But once you use it, once you see how her eyes change, how her energy shifts toward you instead of away, you'll never go back to the old version of yourself again. Before I reveal it, I want you to understand something critical. Desire is not created when you impress her. It's created when she feels something around you she doesn't feel from other men. And yes, just a few words can completely shift how she sees your value. A sentence can change her perception of you faster than expensive dates, long conversations, or chasing her endlessly ever could. You're about to learn how to trigger emotions she fights to hide, even from herself, emotions she claims she doesn't feel. Emotions society tells her are toxic, but instincts don't care about morality. They care about attraction, strength, and polarity. So listen closely, very closely, because once these phrases become part of your natural vocabulary, the way women respond to you will never look the same. Are you ready? The first forbidden phrase is simple, but it hits a woman harder than you can imagine. It's this: I don't chase, I choose. Most men spend their lives convincing women they're worthy. They audition, they prove, they try to win her over. But when you say these words, not as a performance, not as a threat, but as a calm statement of identity, you flip the dynamic instantly because suddenly you're not trying to be chosen. You are the chooser. Understand something. Women feel desire only when they sense you have options, standards, and a direction in life that doesn't bend for their validation. Even if she never says it out loud, she can sense the difference between a man who wants her and a man who needs her. Need kills attraction faster than anything else. And this phrase removes need entirely. When a man says, I don't chase, I choose, it makes her stop and reassess everything she assumed about him. Is he the kind of man who walks away if something doesn't align? Is he the type who won't beg or compete? Is he the type who sees himself as valuable, maybe even more valuable than she expected? Every woman feels a deep magnetic pull toward a man who sets boundaries without aggression, who positions himself as the prize without arrogance, who stays grounded, not reactive. This phrase does all of that in one breath. It rearranges her expectations. It introduces polarity. Now, the second forbidden phrase cuts even deeper. It's this: I'm not here to fill a void in your life. You have no idea how many men try to be the solution to a woman's fears, insecurities, loneliness, or emotional emptiness. Not because they want to manipulate, but because they think this is what good men do. But when you try to fix her emotional world, you become a therapist, not a partner. You become comfort, not desire. And women do not desire the man they emotionally parent. This phrase tells her clearly, without cruelty, that you're not here to rescue her, that you expect her to meet you as an equal, not a project. It puts her in the feminine position where she has to bring value, energy, softness, and intention rather than just take yours. And here's the part men never understand. When you refuse the role of emotional caretaker, she becomes more attracted, not less. Because now she sees you as a man with a life, a mission, a center that cannot be moved by someone else's chaos. Women feel safest and most drawn to a man who can stand firm while the world wobbles. Now, the third forbidden phrase may sound subtle, but it taps straight into the psychology of desire. It's this: I hear you, but that's not my reality. Most men agree with women just to avoid conflict. They nod, submit, and fold because they fear losing her. But women don't fall for men who collapse under pressure. They fall for men who stay true to their interpretation of the world calmly, confidently, and without hostility. This phrase shows emotional independence. It shows you're not impressionable. And above all, it shows her you're not seeking approval. And nothing awakens feminine desire faster than a man who isn't looking for permission to think for himself. Use these three phrases correctly, not as tricks, but as reflections of who you're becoming, and you'll notice a shift. She leans in more. She watches you differently. She tries harder because now you're becoming the man her instincts recognize. The fourth forbidden phrase is the one most men are terrified to say because it requires confidence, emotional composure, and a backbone most guys never develop. But when you say it with calm certainty, it hits a woman in a way she can't ignore. It's this: if it doesn't feel right, I'm willing to walk away. Understand something crucial. A woman does not desire the man who clings. She doesn't crave the man who tolerates anything just to keep her. She doesn't respect the man who fears losing her more than he fears losing himself. When you speak this phrase without anger, without exaggeration, without trying to scare her, you communicate something extremely rare in today's world. You have self-respect, you have emotional stability, and you refuse to participate in a connection that drains your value, energy, or peace. Women are biologically wired to test a man's internal strength, not to hurt him, but to feel who he truly is. These tests are instinctual, subconscious, automatic. And the moment she senses you're terrified of losing her, she loses the very attraction you're trying to earn. This phrase reverses that dynamic instantly because it shows her that you're not operating from fear. You're operating from self-worth. A man who can walk away is a man she wants to follow. A man who doesn't need her is a man she wants to give herself to. It's the paradox of attraction. The less you depend on her, the more she depends on your presence. But the fifth forbidden phrase is the most powerful of all. It's the one that doesn't just awaken desire. It sparks curiosity, challenge, and emotional investment all at once. It's this: you're interesting, but I'm still figuring you out. This sentence does something psychologically brilliant. It compliments her just enough. It challenges her subtly and irresistibly, and it positions you as the man who cannot be mentally or emotionally conquered in a single moment. Every woman, no matter how beautiful or confident, subconsciously fears being predictable. She fears being another pretty face. She fears being categorized instantly because once a man stops discovering her, the connection becomes flat, lifeless, routine. Most men give women a feeling of instant certainty. You're amazing. I've never met someone like you. You're everything I've ever wanted. It sounds sweet, but it kills desire. Why? Because desire needs tension, mystery, the unknown, a sense that she has more to reveal, more to prove, more to unfold. This phrase gives her all of that at once. It tells her, you see her, you're intrigued by her, but you're not hypnotized by her. You're evaluating, you're observing, you're deciding. And that flips the script completely. Suddenly, she's wondering, what part of me is he still figuring out? What does he see that other men don't? Why hasn't he already labeled me as perfect like everyone else? That curiosity becomes attraction. That attraction becomes investment. And that investment becomes desire. Put these 5 phrases together and you speak with a masculine polarity most men never access. Not manipulative, not controlling, just grounded, clear, intentional. A man with a spine, a mission, and a standard for his life. Use these phrases with authenticity, not as tactics, but as expressions of who you're becoming. And watch how the women around you subtly shift their tone, their attention, and their willingness to pursue you. Most men hear these phrases and think, if I say them, she'll leave, she'll get offended, she'll think I'm distant or arrogant. But that fear reveals the real problem. Most men are terrified of a woman's reaction, terrified of her silence, terrified of losing whatever small connection they think they've built. Let me tell you a truth you are never supposed to know. Women do not desire the man who plays it safe. They desire the man who is safe within himself. When you speak with calm confidence, not aggression, with grounded certainty, not ego, you awaken something in her that polite, fearful men never touch. And the truth is, these forbidden phrases aren't really phrases. They're reflections of a certain type of man. A man very few women ever meet in their lifetime. There's a reason she becomes distant with one guy, but deeply feminine around another. There's a reason she argues with one man, but melts around another. There's a reason she tests, resists, or shuts down with certain men, but becomes soft, open, responsive, and even emotional around a man who carries a specific energy. That energy is this: a man who is not afraid of losing her, a man who is not desperate for validation, a man who does not treat her as a prize to be won, but as a human he chooses intentionally. When you embody this, your words hit differently. I'm not here to fill a void in your life. Doesn't sound cold. It sounds healthy. If it doesn't feel right, I'm willing to walk away. Doesn't sound threatening. It sounds mature. You're interesting, but I'm still figuring you out. Doesn't sound manipulative. It sounds present. Because when your energy is aligned with your words, she can feel the difference. Women don't listen to your sentences. They listen to the man behind them. The tone, the presence, the emotional posture, and the moment she senses strength, mystery, self-respect, and direction, her feminine nature gravitates toward it instinctively. Here's something else she'll never admit out loud. Women want to be unsure at first. They want to earn your validation, not receive it instantly. They want to feel your attention as something meaningful, not automatic. And these phrases create that emotional environment not through manipulation, but through alignment with how attraction actually works at a psychological level. Think about the men she complains about. He's too clingy. He's too emotional. He's too available. He's too nice. What do all these descriptions have in common? They describe a man who has no center, no boundaries, no tension, no polarity. Now think about the men she obsesses over, the ones she can't forget, the guy who spoke slowly, the guy who didn't rush, the guy who didn't reveal everything at once, the guy she couldn't fully read but felt deeply around. What did they have? Space, stillness, unapologetic presence, Each forbidden phrase taps directly into this psychology. They make her feel like she's standing in front of a man with layers, not a cafeteria menu. She can read in 10 seconds. They make her curious. They make her invested. They make her chase without even realizing she's chasing. The truth is, desire isn't something you force. It's something you create through how you carry yourself, how you speak, and how willing you are to walk away from anything that diminishes your worth. And once she feels that from you, her entire behavior changes. Now that you know the 5 forbidden phrases, I want to reveal the deeper truth behind why they work. A truth most dating coaches will never say out loud because it removes all the gimmicks, all the tricks, all the superficial tactics. These phrases work because they shift the emotional frame, and whoever controls the emotional frame controls the direction of the connection. Most men operate inside a woman's frame without noticing. They wait for her to text first. They adjust their tone based on her mood. They change their plans to accommodate her schedule. They mirror her energy. They soften themselves to avoid tension. And every time they do this, they dissolve the very attraction they're trying to build. A woman feels desire when she steps into your reality, your standards, your presence, your pace, your expectations, not when you bend yourself to fit hers. But here's where most men misunderstand. This isn't about dominance. It's about inner sovereignty. Women crave men who are emotionally sovereign, men who are not seeking approval, reassurance, or direction from her, men who can stand in uncertainty without collapsing, men who move with intention instead of desperation. When you use these phrases, you're not acting like an alpha. You're removing the layers of neediness that society forced onto you. Let's look at them again through this lens. I don't chase, I choose. This is you stepping out of the approval seeker mindset. You're not trying to impress her. You're evaluating if she fits into your life, not begging to enter hers. I'm not here to fill a void in your life. This sets emotional boundaries. It shows maturity. It tells her she must bring stability, not chaos, and that you refuse to be her emotional crutch. I hear you, but that's not my reality. This expresses individuality. You can understand her perspective without absorbing it or abandoning your own. If it doesn't feel right, I'm willing to walk away. This demonstrates strength. You value yourself more than the connection, and that makes you infinitely more attractive. You're interesting, but I'm still figuring you out. This builds tension. It keeps the mystery alive. It keeps her emotionally engaged. But here's the real transformation. When you use these phrases authentically, when they come from the root of who you are becoming, they change your energy first. They shift you from a reactive man to a grounded one, from a pleaser to a chooser, from a chaser to a man who attracts naturally. And when a woman feels that shift, she steps closer. Her tone softens, her guard lowers, her curiosity grows. Her desire awakens because now you're not giving her the predictable male behavior she's used to. You're giving her polarity, and polarity is what creates chemistry, attraction, desire, an unforgettable connection. Here's the final truth. A woman does not desire a perfect man. She desires a man who is anchored. A man who can guide the energy of the connection without force, without fear, without losing himself. And these forbidden phrases help you step into that version of yourself. So now the question becomes, what kind of man are you becoming from this moment forward? A man who hides his power to avoid rocking the boat, or a man who speaks with intention, certainty, and emotional clarity? No matter who's watching, only you can answer that. Before you go, tell me in the comments, which phrase are you going to use first and why? And if this video opened your eyes, like it, subscribe, and share it with a friend who needs to hear this today. You never know.